The presidency of COP29 has proposed a new climate finance plan requiring developed nations to provide $250 billion annually to developing countries by 2035. The latest proposal is part of the broader goal to mobilize $1.3 trillion for both public and private sectors, particularly wealthy countries, to address lingering climate scourge plaguing the planet. That's how I make you welcome to today's edition of the program, The Desk on Global Television. My name is Anthony Momodi. Welcome to today's edition. It promises to be very exciting as we look at issues making the rounds across the globe, and also in Nigeria we'll be looking at very key issues, but to kickstart with issues that has to do with climate change as the world converge on Azerbaijan to take very far-reaching decisions that would help the globe tackle climate change. That's to let you know that the presidency of COP29 has proposed a new climate finance plan requiring the developed countries to provide $250 billion annually to developing countries like Nigeria by 2035. The latest proposal is part of a broader goal to mobilize $1.3 trillion from both the public and private sectors, particularly wealthy countries, to address lingering climate scourge plaguing the planet. The highly anticipated new draft text published Friday calls on all actors to work together to enable the scaling up of financing to developing countries for climate action from all public and private sources, at least 1.3 trillion naira per year by 2035. All right, the 5-page document emphasizes the need for developed nations to take the lead in providing climate finances to developing countries, as it perceived to be the significant step towards addressing the climate crisis, promoting sustainable development. We already know the effect of climate change, where you have lots of flooding. We saw what played out in Spain, in Valencia specifically, where hundreds of people lost their life due to the issue of flooding and mudslide. And all right, so we'll be hoping that the African continent will get its own fair share of this huge amount of money, and also hoping that the leaders of Africa would use this money eventually for the good use of tackling climate change issues like erosion in the southeast and other forest encroachment in the northern part of Nigeria and the sub-Saharan Africa. We'll be looking at that issue from the close range, and we'll also be going from COP29, where world leaders will be gathering. We'll be taking it to the ICC. The talk is not over, as recently we got the International Criminal Court of Justice issuing warrant of arrest for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former defense minister of Israel. This time around, despite the U.S. saying they countering that warrant of arrest, we have other European countries supporting it, as Italy and the Netherlands and Canada and other countries have announced their intention to comply with the arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The warrant issued by the ICC on Thursday accused both men of war crimes and crimes against humanity during the ongoing war in Gaza. The court's charges include allegations of starvation, murder, persecution, and other inhuman acts. So what does this mean? Is this tilting towards the Third World War, when Italy, Canada, and other countries are beginning to support the ICC against the Americans, who are saying it's outrageous for the ICC to issue a warrant of arrest against Benjamin Netanyahu and the former Minister of Defense? So we'll be looking at that closely, what this may portend for the entire world. Not forgetting the fact that all this kick-started after the launch of the October 7 attack by the Hamas group, and where more than 44,000 Palestinians, many of them women and children, have been killed so far. All right, so from that talking point, we'll be moving to other issues on the desk for discourse. We'll be looking at other issues as regards the death toll in Pakistan, the double attack, terrorism taking place in other parts of the world. So we'll be looking at that. Keenly, we'll be having two in Pakistan. The death toll from the two attacks in northwest Pakistan rose to 43, authorities said on Friday, as they imposed a curfew and suspended mobile service in the remote and mountainous district. Gunmen opened fire on two separate convoys of Shiite Muslims traveling with a police escort in Kuram, a district of Kabai in the Patkutwa province near Afghanistan border. So it's a fight between the Shiite and the Sunni in Pakistan. So we're looking at that. And they will be coming to a very disturbing analysis by the SBM intelligence show that Nigeria's instability worsened as it ranked 45th position this year, unlike the previous year when it ranked 39 and was marked stable. So it means Nigeria's stability is shaky. Nigeria is not a stable country amongst the African countries, according to the SBM analysis, which we'll be looking at keenly what this means because Nigeria has become less stable in the past year and can now be categorized as vulnerable based on the instability risk index. So it means Nigeria has the possibility of, imploding into either civil war or unrest. So this is a very disturbing, analysis. So we'll be looking at that the implication. All this talking point is what we'll be looking at on today's edition of the program, The Desk. I'll be having two guests. One of them will be Olugbenga George, who is a diplomatic aide and also a journalist who will be joining us via Zoom from Lagos State. And also we'll be having the publisher of Indigo newspapers in the person of Boefi Chubuzo Onya, who will be joining us live in the studios to help us look at all these very interesting talking points after this break when we hit our discuss button. Stay with us. All right, welcome back from the break. It's now time for us to begin our discussions, and we're starting with Olugbenga George, who is joining us via Zoom. He is a diplomatic aide and also a journalist. He is reaching us from Lagos as we begin our discussions on COP 29. Good evening, Olugbenga George. Thank you for joining us on the desk.
Good evening, Tony. Good evening, Nigeria. Thank you for having me one more time.
All right, let's look at the very important and critical move by COP29 presidency, which has proposed a new climate finance plan requiring developed nations to provide $250 billion annually to developing countries like Nigeria by 2035. The latest proposal is part of a broader goal to mobilize $1.3 trillion from both public and private sectors, particularly wealthy nations, to address lingering climate change. How important is this that the developed nations, the wealthy nations, have now woken up to the reality that the lesser nations do need aid in order to tackle the climate change challenges?
Well, thank you very much once again. Thank you for this opportunity. Let me begin by saying that it is a very welcome development because we now live in a global village, and whatever affects one country affects the other. Most developed nations are, however, victims of some of the activities that the developed countries are engaged in. So, but the sad part is that, and that's why I say they are victims, by the way. The sad part is that everyone actually is under God's green eye and God's green earth. I mean, it's under the same sky. So we happen to share the same ozone layer. I mean, we're under. So whatever happens in one part of the world affects every other part of the world, and that is why the conversation, about how to stabilize our climate and achieve sustainable climate, a sustainable environment that is safe for everyone to live in, is a collective idea, and that is why this decision by COP29 has come to stay. However, I mean, the challenge of climate change is felt by every single country. Nigeria is experiencing its own. It is affecting us in the agricultural sector. It is affecting our weather, and our ability to produce as much as we used to. It is also affecting our economy in so many ways, just as it is affecting every other nation of the world. So yes, 29, the presidency and the leadership that came up with the $1.3 trillion dollars investment in the next without the 12, 13 years to be achieved by 2035 is actually a welcome development. Nations who have industrialized, nations who have contributed, to the depletion of the ozone layer. Although one cannot totally rule out the contribution of everybody, it is actually a contribution by everybody, every stakeholder is involved. But then we do know that some nations are involved more than the other, especially where the use of technology is concerned. But we also have our own, like deforestation, burning out some gaseous, some dangerous gases, that continues to put our own layer in danger. But all of that being said, it is a welcome decision by the COP29, and I think if we're able to work this stuff, then we'll be moving closer to achieving a stable environment, a globally welcome environment, a globally safe environment where we can thrive and we can adjust to the new reality that we are in across the globe.
There's a school of thought that there are fears and concerns that African leaders might misuse the funds that will be allocated to the African continent eventually when these monies are given to developing nations to use to fight climate change challenges like erosions and encroachment of the desert in the northern region of the country and the southeast where erosion is hitting hard. And we also see the flooding in the Niger Delta region, Benue, Kogi and all that. Are you worried in terms of the usage of these monies when it eventually comes? And also the time frame 2035, is that not too far off? Considering that the climate change challenges are already hitting Africa and the sub-Saharan Africa regions already?
Well, thank you, Tony, and that's a very interesting question because just like we were talking climate change is just one of the many contributions that developed nations continue to contribute to developing countries, especially Nigeria. You will go back to the international community has been very involved in Nigeria, in terms of contributing to helping us to stabilize our economy, to stabilize security, to stabilize different sectors. And up to now, Africa is still lagging behind where development is concerned. So the fear, and of course, the issues are there for everyone to see, which is the fact that corruption, that the African states, is neck deep in corruption, and that our leaders, have imbibed corruption as a culture. You see right now that even locally, there is an outrageous sum of 58 point something trillion naira that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is proposing for 2025, and a lot of questions have come to place like it has always been. So all of these outrageous figures that we continue to get, what impact have they had on our economy? So I am certain, that these are some of the things that causes the fear and the doubt about whether Africa will be able to effectively utilize these funds. $250 billion every year is a lot of money. And I believe that it will go far in solving some of the climate challenges that we are encountering, like you have mentioned, the flooding, and all of it, all of the challenges, in the different parts of the country. The fears are real, and I think that is one of the reasons why the Global South leadership of COP29 have reacted to that proposal of 250 billion or 1.3 trillion naira between now and 2035. They are saying, okay, these figures we have heard you, but how are you going to utilize them? What are they allocated to? What specific projects are these monies allocated to? And how will they actually be implemented on a timely basis? How are these going to be implemented? These are the issues, that are being discussed, and it's a clarion call, for African leaders to sit back and not just as usual, begin to plan to expand their motorcade and, and their security votes and all the dues they get from public office that makes them comfortable and leave the people in a more desperate and precarious situation. Because that's the African story in its entirety. We have to be realistic. So yes, it is a wake-up call. The suspicions are real, and the fears are real, but I think the onus is upon African leaders to now decide, to say, we are going to allay the fears of those people. And how will they do that effectively? It is by ensuring that there is a plan. So we are going to have, I'm just giving an example, if $5 billion is going to come to Nigeria, for climate protection, for adaptation to climate changes, then how is that $5 billion going to be effectively utilized so that those who are bringing this money will feel a sense of fulfillment and they will not feel cheated? Because if some people bring in this money, for the entire population of over 220 million people and over 450 million across Africa, and these monies are being swallowed by slaves or monkeys. I'm sure you know what I mean. Then the needed development for which these contributions are made will not be achieved, and they will continue to set the global world back, in its agenda to ensure a safe environment for the entire globe. Africa will be the first beneficiary of the it, but beyond that, the entire globe will also suffer it. So it is time for African leaders to actually sit down and make a reasonable plan, make a workable plan for how this can be achieved. How far can we go with ensuring that there is a plan and that these plans are achievable and that they are realistic and that when these funds come in, that they are effectively used, judiciously used for the purposes for which they are disbursed or injected into the African economy. That is your question is actually more of a wake up call, is more of preaching the conference of African leaders to sit up and make a plan and work effectively with that plan to ensure that it is utilized and that the global agenda, of achieving a safe environment for to live, is achieved.
Right, let's take one more talking point before we let you go. Let's look at the issue of the ICC. Italy, Netherlands, Canada, and other countries have announced their intention to comply with arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The warrant issued by the ICC on Thursday accused both men of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Are you surprised that countries like Canada, Holland, and other countries, Italy, are willing to comply with the ICC warrant of arrest when the United States of America has rejected that move by the ICC, saying it's outrageous if you put into consideration the fact that the Hamas group, first of all, began this carnage with the killing of Israelis on October 7th?
Well, I am not surprised. Let me begin by saying that Canada, that Italy are not the other countries, supporting this move by the International Criminal Court. The state of Israel has been embarking for over a year now, but I guess like I'm always on the of equity. I'm always on the side of what is good for the geese is good for the gander. And crimes against humanity, for which Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, and the defense chief is also accused of, is a far-reaching crime. However, you would remember that the first country to actually sue the Israeli government to court was actually the South African government. They sued Israel to the International Criminal Court, and they got a judgment, at the time, saying that Israel ought to, should stop the war against the crimes against humanity that they were committing, which has the mass murder, which is actually blocking humanitarian aid from going into some of these places where it ought to go to. So all of these issues are quite important, but there are perspectives to it. And in the global south, the global village generally right now, every country has their own allies. So the state of Israel has its own allies, and America, of course, is a strong ally of Israel. However, we have also seen how the administration of President Joe Biden have maintained position where that is concerned, to say Netanyahu should be called to order, and some of these crimes against humanity should be stopped, especially talking about passing humanitarian aid to the victims in Gaza. The killings of children, it breaks the heart of every one of us. And no one wants to see all of that continue. But again, whatever is good for the geese is good for the gander. If the International Criminal Court, have made a decision, and just like they made it earlier, during this war, you would remember that there was supposed to be a BRICS summit, and they were expecting, they made it against, I beg your pardon, they made it against the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, during the Ukraine war. Russia-Ukraine war went at its inception. I think that was earlier this year. And none of that happened, because they had their own allies. So we will wait to see whether this is enforceable by any of these countries. Does Benjamin Netanyahu, for example, have any business going to Canada or going to Italy or going to any of the countries, that have showed interest in actually making sure that these judgments that is passed by the International Criminal Court is actually followed. That again, we will only see as time goes on. But however, I think I still continue to call for more diplomatic engagement between the countries that are involved. We need better diplomatic engagement. Israel is a victim as much as Gaza and all of the other people are a victim. And I am also of the position, looking at how the matter started from the very beginning, that who made the first attack? Well, that is no longer the bane of contention, in the diplomatic community and generally. But I think that is where the discussion should actually be picked from. This crime has been committed, and who is apologizing, who is paying the prices for each of these countries? I think these are the matters that the world of diplomacy needs to engage further and further to ensure that that equity is maintained, that the balance between all of these very salient issues.
To say thank you very much, Olugbenga Georgia, for joining us on the desk and for your perspective on those two very key issues. I will urge you to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. All right, I will go for a quick break. When we return from the break, we'll be having another guest join us in the live studio. He is the publisher of one of the fastest growing newspapers in Nigeria, the Indigo newspaper. He is Ogbuefi Chibuzo Onya will join us in the live studios to help us look at these issues, COP29, and also we'll be looking at the ICC warrant of arrest and other issues making the rounds. Stay with us. welcome back from the break. You're still watching The Desk on Global Television. Now time for us to rewind quickly. We've got the publisher of Indigo newspapers right here in the studio, Boefi Chibuzo Onya, joining us in the studios. Thank you very much. Before you came in,
my pleasure.
Yeah, we had a quick talk about COP29 deciding to, raise as much as $1.3 trillion and also give some to developing countries as a way of them fighting climate change. The big talking point is, would African countries make good use of these monies? That's one of them. Then we also went to the ICC. Saying warrant of arrest for Netanyahu and the former Gallant, the former defense chief. The question is, the ICC, we've got Canada, Netherlands, and Italy willing to implement the arrest warrant. Is that good enough? Is this not tilting towards world war when allies begin to take sides?
Anyway, actually, just like your guests, the person that was on before now,
okay,
what he said, actually, if the ICC, if they were looking into the matter from the correct perspective, it shouldn't be now, because something sparked off this. By October 7, when this thing came up, nobody, if you check the way the matter was going, find out that before now, it was not about against the Palestinians. It was not against the Gaza people, but because this militia group,
the Hamas,
they see the tunnels, which means their intention was to eliminate Israel outrightly. You see the way the tunnels were built, what it took them to build that tunnel. So it was a preconceived idea that this thing should be carried out and it should be done. And nobody is revisiting the what led to this quagmire, what led to this problem presently on ground. Having said that, that shouldn't give the Israelites the audacity to continue. If they listen to the world is saying, come down, let's just sit down and resolve this matter. But Israel, Netanyahu is just saying that Hamas must be dealt with, so that they won't come up tomorrow to start thinking of, wiping off Israel outright, because that's the intention of the Hamas and the Hezbollah and all these militia groups. I've never seen a Western nation obeying ICC.
Because Vladimir Putin was also
yes, but he traveled. He went to some other countries, and nobody arrested him. Even when America went to the Middle East, then in Iraq, yeah. Even when what they did in Libya, nobody issued warrant of arrest, because nobody has ever told us what the sins of Gaddafi. Today, that country is in a mess. Nobody gave warrant of arrest for American president. Nobody gave warrant of arrest to American president for going to Iraq. Why should it be now? There is hypocrisy, well-enshrined hypocrisy in so-called ICC. Let them tell themselves, let the so-called world leaders look into the matter, find a solution, not giving warrant of arrest. That will not solve the problem. And Netanyahu, everybody knows him. He's not somebody that can give up because of warrant of arrest. He sees Israel, that Israel is being threatened. For that particular act of October 7, if you had watched it and watched the response, the discoveries, you shudder. So what should be the way out there is sitting down together, looking at the matter, calling everybody to shift their sword. Let the matter be resolved. Simple. Any nation that is financing Hamas, any nation that is financing Hezbollah and all these ones should be called, because they were that. If you don't equip them with those ammunitions, they will not. It's just like what is happening in Nigeria, in northern parts of this country. You see people financing Boko Haram, and in Saudi Arabia, or even in UAE, they said there are Nigerians who are interested, who are doing it, and nobody has ever brought them to book. It's the same thing. And we are here crying Boko Haram, hunger, no family, nothing is coming out from the farm anymore.
All right, let's move on to, still, since we're talking insecurity, let's look at the charges, talking about ECPA's terror charges, which is very important to Nigerians. The federal government will likely apply for the extradition of Samuel Ekpa. Currently, his prosecution is going on, and we are being told, before I came into the live studio, that the federal government is monitoring the prosecution going on, his case in Finland. Do you think already we also did have the defense headquarters already celebrating that his arrests and detention and likely extradition is victory? Do you think it's too early for the Nigerian defense headquarters to celebrate when we know that Ekpa has dual citizenship?
You see, it is not only, I was reading some of this, his arrest and other things, even from the social media and other outfits. There is this kind of celebration in the East, in the Southeast. I read what Ohaneze Ndibo, said.
And IPOB had already, disowned him. Is that right?
No, understand this. We're not talking about what is right, but we want something that will bring peace to the Southeast. If you get to Southeast, for instance, every Sunday, Monday you cannot go anywhere. And some people, they thought they were just trying to, achieve the Biafran matter via such means. It can never work. You cannot be fighting the federal government and you are jeopardizing your own economy. Because the government of Federal Republic of Nigeria, when you want to declare sit at home, it doesn't affect them. But you are the one paying. Your people are being killed. You are not going to federal government to say, "Oh, this and that." If you are going for how do I put it, self-actualization, there are known ways of telling the people, telling the world that what you are doing. This is only Biafra is not only this thing in the world. In Britain, they have about 17 people itching to 17 countries itching to break off from Great Britain. In Russia, 13. But they are not doing it the way these people are doing it. You can't stay there to declare yourself an emperor or a prime minister, and you are issuing instruction there. Our people are killing ourselves. So what we are looking at is, if he is brought back to Nigeria,
do you think Finland would agree at the end of the day?
It depends on the way the Finnish government looked into the requests, and if there is any tie between Nigeria and Finland, to the extent of granting Nigeria their request, what's the big deal in it?
In terms of, let's say, assume he comes back to Nigeria, is there a guarantee that the Finnish government would allow him to be incarcerated in Nigeria? And don't you think the Finnish government will also be part of every process of his prosecution right here in Nigeria?
If he comes to Nigeria, my brother, Nigerian government will not even listen to Finland at all.
Because at that time,
because of the nature of what goes on in this country, especially being an Igbo man. Let me just say it. Being an Igbo man in this country, some of the laws are made for Igbo people. I'm not ready, because it is true. A matter will come up. This thing. What the thing has to do with Sunday Igboho had the same problem with Nnamdi Kanu. He is free. Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention. Even when the courts in Nigeria says he's free, he's supposed to be free. Today he is still under detention. He's been incarcerated. I see no reason why, if we are seeing as, oh, we are part and parcel of this nation, where whatever we are, we should feel free. Even if it is for political reasons, the president should listen and say, let there be peace in the Southeast.
Do you think if Ekpa is extradited back to Nigeria, that's going to give the opportunity for the federal government to want to release Nnamdi Kanu?
Nnamdi Kanu was never part of what Ekpa was doing, because of what I had him say, what I had and what I read. That he was never part of stay at home and all the mass killing and all this, what they call it, whatever. He was never. Nnamdi Kanu has been doing his show, his liberation show, not having anything like bloodshed involved in it. But if you listen to Ekpa's matter, you find out that he lets the world know that already the military arm of his group is capable of facing the federal government. That's from the ones we watch on social media. So by God's grace, let's watch and see how the Finnish government will handle the matter.
All right, let's...
At least for making the arrest, it is showing the signs of working with the federal government to bring peace to Nigeria.
All right, let's move on to other issues. Looking at the federal government, talking about state policing. The federal government, we know that the National Economic Council did give ultimatum to 3 states. So we've got Kebbi, we've got Kwara, we've got even the FCT as regards making their stance known as if they're in support of state police. And the federal government is saying next week the decision will be taken regardless of if these 3 states make their stance known, and says whatever decision they take will be binding on the other states, the 30 states of federation. Is this a good move, knowing fully well the Nigerian police force has not always been well funded according to the police and have lots of challenges?
I do not think that the Nigerian police is not well funded. I don't believe it.
So is it mismanagement of funds?
I'm coming to that. The problem the Nigerian police has is that we are still believing in a master-servant relationship, which they inherited from our colonial masters. If we had indigenized our own policing, it wouldn't be having all these problems. We wouldn't be having the problems. Thank God a few Inspector General that have come and gone started reviving or started reforms that could make us have indigenized Nigerian police. If we have gone into, for instance, if you report a matter at the police station, to the police, the first thing police will do, they will come with every intimidation. They will do everything to make sure that person, they will not investigate the matter. They will come with everything they have against the person. That is not policing. There are other reformed ways of handling security matters. We've lost that. In terms of funding, if you ask me, if you get to some of these police stations, you'll find out that it will take somebody that knows what he's doing to keep a police station clean. Let's just take that aspect alone. You do not expect government to give you money to sweep the compound. But in some states, for instance, I could remember in Enugu State, or if you state tomorrow in Enugu, or in some states of the Federation, each time, even from the security fund, you find out the governor of that place, of the state, will now buy enough vehicles, enough communication gadgets and whatever. It will be launched. The newsmen will carry the launching and whatever. What happens to it? If you call police for there's something to be done, that's a menace or emergency, they will tell you there's no fear. Bring money for fear. And that's not policing. First of all, let our mind be revived. Let our mind be focused on how to curb out the excesses, the corruption. Once the corruption is curbed, these things will be a thing of the past. Once we now indigenize our own policing, no longer following the borrowed policing from our colonial masters. That's the problem we have. The other day we were arguing. Somebody was saying that if you allow this fair road safety to start carrying guns, I said no. If the National Assembly passes that bill, which means what they are looking for more people to protect them, not to protect Nigerians. Because once somebody who is there to check where potholes, when you have all these dangerous potholes on the road, should report to federal government that this place, because that's road safety, part of road safety. Those angles are not being considered again. What they're considering is your driver's license, your vehicle particulars. The police is still doing your driver's license, doing particulars. The yellow fever, they're still on. Everybody going there. Once you give them gun, there'll be trouble in this country. Absolute trouble.
All right, let's just time out, our friend. Let's quickly look at the news that just broke in the last 3 hours, where the Supreme Court has nullified the National Lottery Act 2005 enacted by the National Assembly. The judgment followed the suit filed in 2008 by Lagos and some other states. Ruling the matter, the Apex Court, in a unanimous judgment consisting of 7 members on Friday, held that the National Assembly lacked the powers to legislate on the issues relating to lottery and game of chance. The lead judgment was delivered by Justice Mohammed Idris. The court ruled that such powers only reside with the state houses of assembly, which possess exclusive jurisdiction over lottery and games of chance. The court also ordered the National Lottery Act 2005 should no longer be enforced in all states except the Federal Capital Territory. How do you see this playing out?
You can't query the Supreme Court, that the highest court of the land. Once the judgment is given, we all abide by the judgment.
But why did it take this long, since 2005?
It depends on when they went to court, and when the matter was, what happens to us in this country is that when 2008 it went to court, and it depends on when they, according to their own calendar, they handle the things to suit them. That's the problem. We don't consider certain things, the exigencies and other things. We don't consider them. This matter was taken to court for a purpose within that time. It was left to this moment, and they're giving judgment on that. One wonders the level of consultations that took them from 2008 to 2024. You know how many years? 16 good years for this judgment to come. So everybody should abide by the judgment because it has come, and nobody can change it because that's the highest court of the land.
All right, but what will be the implication of this judgment? Because we know that there's the National Lottery Commission. There were those who were employed, who work in this commission. And the school of thought that says this commission pay people very heavy. And what's going to happen to the assets of this commission also?
There could be a body. There's a way out. When there is, according to law, I'm not a lawyer, but according to lawyers, they say when there is lacuna, the state absorbs. Now, the state will now tell us exactly. There could be a body supervising what is going on in various states. With that, they can manage it. Exactly. It's just like what we're talking about, state policing. If those states, they are pointed out, say, okay, we want to do it, there could be a central body that will monitor what is going on within the system. So if they do it, I think that should be a way out.
Do you think the states would want to jump on this chance now that the court says it's only the state
that can have, yes. That is an opportunity for states to increase their revenue. Exactly, that's the opportunity of the states. And already they have this tax. Was this bill that was sent to the president sent to National
Tax Reform
Bill? If they look into it, it could be a way of making sure that the states become viable, because the Lottery Commission of various states will now start generating more money for the states. They can now pay a token to the National Lottery Commission that will make sure that these various states work in harmony, work in total, in tandem with the laid down rules.
All right, time not our friend, but this is how much time is going to allow us to take on today's edition of the program. The desk, I want to say a big thank you to the publisher of Indigo Newspapers in the person of Ogbuefi Chibuzo Onya for joining us in the live studios, and not also forgetting Olugbenga George, who is a diplomatic aide and a journalist joining us from Lagos to lend his voice as regards the COP29 holding in Azerbaijan, and also the issue of the warrant of arrest issued by the ICC against the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. My name is Anthony Momodu, saying thank you for being part of the program. Let's do this again next week. We'll be coming with other big talking points to make you well informed.